another thing and close the door on us. As an immigrant to this country myself, I immigrated at the age of 6. I've learned and I've come to know many people of diverse communities, diverse ethnic backgrounds, and I've come to love them as my friends. And I'm very passionate about our community, about my family, and about myself. I believe in myself, I believe in our community. There's a lot of good within our community, within our multicultural community. And there's no reason why we can't get things done the way we say we're going to do them. Okay? There were some very wonderful questions here, and a lot of them were dodged. They weren't quite answered the way in which we would like them answered, of course, but that's why I guess it got hot in this room. There's a lot of hot air. When you get politicians around, it gets hot because of all that hot air.
Well, what's your platform?
But nevertheless, our platform is a 5-point plan. And I encourage everyone to take a look at the Green Party platform because it's one of the most progressive platforms that exist. You may go to gpo.ca to see the complete platform, and if you have any questions whatsoever, I'm here to assist in any capacity. To outline briefly,
I'm sorry, what is it? GPO?
gpo.ca. gpo.ca. And as you know, the mainstream media continues to choose to black us out of all the debates. We've had over 500,000 voters in the last provincial election. That's 500,000 Ontarians are getting blocked out. If this was to happen anywhere else in the world, we'd probably be sending our army there to liberate those 500,000 people. But here in Canada, for some reason, 500,000 people don't have a voice. We're talking about voting people here. And it's time that we heard what the Green Party has to say. Because what they're saying is what people like yourselves wish to hear. We're not talking about what corporations want. We're talking about what the good citizens of each and every community want. And we believe in grassroots democracy. That's one thing that differentiates ourselves from the old school parties. Because we've given everyone else an opportunity to prove themselves. And every time we've given them an opportunity, we've got a good kick in the butt once they've been in. Over and over again. We've given the Liberals an opportunity, and they're still saying, elect us this time and we'll get things done. Well, you know what? I ask everyone to pause for a moment, stop listening to what we're going to do in the future, and think about what's been done in the past. As far as I'm concerned, not much has been done. And that's a problem, because many young individuals who are going through university are finding it difficult. And these are our children. I have a young child that's just started junior kindergarten, and I'm thinking, what is his future here? We immigrated here for an opportunity. And I'm finding that many of our children are having to immigrate to places that are more progressive in thought, that are investing in renewable energies. We didn't immigrate here so that our children can immigrate somewhere else. We want them here with us. And it's a great problem when first and foremost they can't even afford the education here because prices have gone up astronomically since I was going to school. And it's unprecedented that these children who have just indebted themselves with $40,000 plus, depending on their courses, only have a part-time job serving coffee or flipping hamburgers. And that's the only available job for them after they've received their degree. It's unprecedented, and I think it's time for a change. And one of the reasons why I chose to run with the Green Party is because I believe, just as someone who immigrated to this country will work the hardest for any individual, I believe that the smallest party will always work the hardest to prove themselves. someone who's never been given an opportunity will always work most diligently to make their cause and to prove their point. Our 5-point plan, beginning with number 1, is creating jobs for a 21st century economy. We see all over the world they're investing heavily into renewable energy sources. Germany, 20% of their energy, if not 30%, is coming from renewables. We know what's working. 22 to 30% of their energy is renewable energy. They are phasing out nuclear because of the unknown cost. And we know from Chernobyl, we know from Japan, that the cost is too much to burden our children with. Okay, because that cost goes down to them. And when I buy something, I like to know how much this glass of water is going to cost me. Don't tell me, oh, we'll give it to you for $7 billion, and then at 7 generations later, I'm spending $700 billion for it. And it still hasn't been paid. And then what are we going to do with that waste? Before we make decisions, we need to know from beginning to end what is going to be the cause and effect, and where is this waste going? Are we just going to dump it in somebody else's backyard? Well, that backyard ends up being our backyard. So there's some hard questions we need to answer, and we need to ask. When it comes to renewables, 500,000 people were given new jobs in Germany and in Holland, in Europe. And there's no reason why all these auto factories that are being closed down today can't be building renewable energy sources. Solar panels can be built in those closed down shops. And there's no reason why local entrepreneurs can't get the same kind of break as we're giving to Korean companies. We need to have a fair and just bidding system as opposed to just handing out contracts to people who have their own self-interests. We need to think about investing in ourselves first and foremost, because that's what's in our best interest. Secondly, harnessing safe, affordable energy to power our communities. That's our second type. Harnessing safe, affordable energy to power our communities. We need to think about our grid structure, because right now, nuclear energy is producing more energy than we know what to do with. We're giving it away. And that's a waste of our tax dollar. It's a waste to us, it's a waste to our children. There's no reason why we have to produce that much amount of energy when we're not using it. Let's produce what we can consume and conserve as much as we can without crippling our economy. Okay, we see a reduction in rates for corporations and an increase for the consumer. That's unprecedented because 85% of energy is used by corporations. And why is it going on the backs of each family by having to pay an increase in prices? You know, last month I was taking a look at my bill, my hydro bill, and I'm sure you all look at it as well. I was paying more for the delivery than I was actually using. And then HST and this, that, and the other. I try to conserve as much as possible, but to no avail, I was paying through the nose, just as you, I'm sure, are as well. And this is after conserving as much as possible without making me totally uncomfortable for my 2-year-old and 4-year-old. You know, and I think, what if we're facing this now, what are they going to face tomorrow? And if we don't do anything about it now, then we may as well just listen to the same old song and dance and pretend that we could have done it better. But there's no use in pretending. What we need to do is try something new give an opportunity to those who are willing to fight for our concerns. Number 3 on our platform is promoting access to quality, sustainable health care close to home. The Liberals keep on boasting about providing extra services for health care. Well, I know for a fact my niece, who had contracted meningitis at the age of 2.5 because the vaccine wasn't available to her through the same access as all other vaccines are available, and she contracted it, and she lost her hearing because of that meningitis. She was going to a school that was teaching her how to speak properly. The Liberal government closed that school because they didn't have a budget to help these children, school children, learn how to speak properly. Through the health, e-health scam, they had hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on their own expenses, but they didn't have enough under David Kaplan to keep this school open. It was Kaplan actually who closed that school. So I ask you, why is it that we don't get our eyes covered on OHIM? It's an essential part of our body. We need it to function, every single one of us. Why is it that our teeth aren't as important? It's very important to maintain our health and dignity. So we need to do more to ensure that our health care, especially for seniors, because there's going to be much more of them around, that they are covered. And they're given the dignity. They worked hard all their lives, and they're having to sacrifice their meal so that they can get their eyes checked, or so that they can get their tooth pulled. I think in a country as rich as Canada, with the resources that we have, that is unprecedented. We're privatizing our water rights. I don't know how many of you know that. I believe that water is a right. It's a human right. And we need to keep it in the public domain. There's no reason why a corporation from France can come over and buy all the rights to our water, and I'm talking about Perrier, because they're the ones that are after it, and we don't do anything about it. There's no reason why our energy ought to be given to private corporations. Energy ought to be in the public domain as it was before. And we need to do everything we can to disperse this message to the members of our community and let them know who will be there to fight for our right. And I know in my heart, from having heard and listened for years to what the Liberals have to say, to what the PC have to say, to the NDP, they all say everything we need to hear or everything we want to hear, but when it comes down to it, we never get the result that we expected. And it's time that we stopped becoming mesmerized by the message and look down at the facts. Let's look at what we've received. Number 4, we need to feed our communities by championing local farms. We're losing farms every day. And there's no reason why us having the most rich agricultural land in North America, we're putting homes on these fertile grounds. And we're shipping our fruits and vegetables from everywhere else in the world, but from Ontario. There needs to be incentives put in place so that we can get local, organic food to our children's table, to our table, because everything we're getting right now is filled with chemicals, as we know, because when you ship something, you have to preserve it, you have to knock it up with all sorts of chemicals. It's not even ripe when they pick it. And that's why a tomato, when we buy it at your local store, tastes like water. Many of you know we've all immigrated here from lands where we grow our own food. And when you taste the tomato, even from your backyard, you can actually smell it before you taste it. And there's no reason why our children have to grow up with chemicals and then face health problems, cancers, at an unprecedented level. I don't know how many of you have experienced a loved one who has cancer. It's not a good thing to lose a healthy individual over cancer. And there's ways that we can prevent that by promoting healthy, locally, organic grown food. That's what we need to start subsidizing and nurturing. And as far as I'm concerned, I believe that something fresh and local and organic ought to be less than something that is synthetic and pumped up with chemicals and I don't know what. You know, we're labeling something that's organic, well, we should be labeling something that is non-organic. And that ought to cost more, because it's doing more damage to our healthcare system, to our lives, and everything else. Number 5, delivering government that works for the people, not for corporations solely. You know, we've done enough to help corporations. We know where that gets us. We get all the subsidies, and then as soon as those subsidies are dried up, they move elsewhere. Well, we can't afford to have a welfare system for corporations. It's time that that stopped, and we started taking care of each individual's and individual families. I'm open to any questions, and I, once again, wish to encourage each and every one of you to send the message out. Because if it wasn't for people like yourselves, mainstream media has too many advertisements by large corporations that don't want to hear what our message is. Because they're selling those chemicals for the tomatoes. Or they're selling that gasoline for that vehicle that could be powered by biofuel. So they don't want to hear us. They don't want the public to hear us. But it's through you that at least your community, our community, can hear what we have to say. I open the floor to some questions. I'd be honored to hear from you. If there's any way that you wish to speak with Mike Schreiner, who is our leader, he'd be more than happy to come into conversation with you and to hear what you have to say.
You would.